Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Tuesday, April 15th. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Last year, the City of Fresno passed an Anti-Encampment Ordinance. It was aimed at preventing unhoused people from setting up camp.
Ever since that ordinance passed sometime last summer, there hasn't really been an individual that has challenged the case in court.
That is, until now. And a recent surprise decision by a Fresno County judge has left more questions than answers. We'll learn more in just a few minutes, but first, these headlines. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is going into Red, California with a stop in Bakersfield scheduled this afternoon. It's part of a nationwide tour that arrived in California this past weekend under the banner of Fighting Oligarchy. Sanders took his progressive brand to perhaps unexpected places, including the popular Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival. He surprised a crowd of thousands opening for the indie pop musician Clairo. The crowd booed when he mentioned President Trump.
Now we got a president of the United States who... I agree. He thinks that climate change is a hoax.
But Trump carried Kern County by 20 points in the last election. And it's possible that Sanders' crowd at the Dignity Health Arena today may not be so welcoming. The rally starts at noon. New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is also set to speak. The immigration agency known as ICE is planning to expand its footprint for detaining immigrants across the San Joaquin Valley. As KVPR's Joshua Yeager reports, the information comes from a trove of documents the ACLU obtained in a government lawsuit.
ICE already has detention centers in Bakersfield and McFarland. Both are operated by the private prison contractor GEO Group. GEO has faced significant criticism from activists and lawmakers over the years due to its handling of the facilities. Detainees have gone on multiple hunger strikes, alleging a lack of due process and abuse at the hands of guards. Those allegations have not hampered the contractor from potentially opening new immigrant detention centers in the Central Valley. A recently closed state prison in California City could become Kern County's third ICE center. The agency recently issued an emergency approval for the facility to reopen, along with dozens of other similar sites nationwide. The move follows President Trump's pledge to orchestrate the largest mass deportation in U.S. history. For KVPR News, I'm Joshua Yeager in Bakersfield.
A federal order to increase U.S. timber production is likely to affect all of California's national forests. That's according to reporting by the LA Times. Last week, the USDA issued an emergency declaration to open up national forests to logging. Though the exact details are unclear, USDA officials confirmed to the Times that all 18 of California's national forests are included in the order. Together, these forests span 20 million acres. The China Peak Mountain Resort in Fresno County is closing ski slopes early this season. That's due to warmer than expected weather over the weekend. Temperatures reached 70 degrees at higher elevations within Sierra National Forest and soared above 90 degrees on the San Joaquin Valley floor. Despite the mini heat wave, the state snowpack measured slightly above average this year, overcoming a dry start to the season. Meanwhile, officials at China Peak say they will reopen for the summer season in late June. The earth shook under San Diego County and across much of Southern California on Monday morning. The USGS says a magnitude 5.2 earthquake hit near the town of Julian. The city of San Diego says their preliminary assessment is that there was no serious damage to any structures in the city. San Diego State Geologist Emeritus Pat Abbott says the quake was a good learning experience for geologists.
It's what I like to call a relatively good kind of an earthquake because you feel the shake, you have the experience, you have the reminder, but the only things really that are going to happen are things falling off of shelves.
The shaking was also felt as far south as Ensenada. The mayor of Tijuana issued a statement saying there was no serious damage to any buildings in the city.
Raise a glass with KVPR, Sunday afternoon, May 4th, for KVPR's wine tasting and more, featuring fine wines from California and beyond, local craft beer, delicious food, live music, and a silent auction, all on the amazing grounds of the Lester Estate in Fresno, where Van Ness Extension meets the San Joaquin River. All proceeds benefit KVPR, so purchase your tickets today at kvpr.org/wine.
And now to our main story. Lawyers appeared in court last week prepared to make their case over a landmark lawsuit regarding the City of Fresno's Anti-Encampment Ordinance. The case centered around an unhoused man named Wiki Two Hands. He was arrested for allegedly violating the ordinance and possessing a stolen shopping cart. His lawyer arrived at a hearing last week ready to defend Wiki in what was expected to be a precedent-setting case. That is, until the judge surprised everyone by throwing it out. We spoke with Fresnoland's Pablo Orihuela about this case. He's covered Fresno's local unhoused community for some time and was in the courtroom that day. He even became a part of the story himself. He'll tell us more about that in just a moment, but first, Pablo gives us some background on the city's encampment ordinance that started this all.
But the city and county passed their own anti-encampment ordinance, and the city specifically is that there is now an anti-encampment ordinance where the procedure is as follows, where a city response team, typically the HART team or the homeless assistance response team, gives an encampment, or in this case an individual, 24 hours notice to vacate the premises. And if after 24 hours the individuals are still there, punishments could be up to $1,000 in fines and a misdemeanor charge with up to a year in jail.
And then last week, an unhoused person who goes by the name Wiki Two Hands was in court. Can you lay out his case and why it's significant?
Yeah, so ever since that ordinance passed sometime last summer, there hasn't really been an individual that has challenged the case in court. Two Hands was arrested in October last year at sometime or somewhere around West Fresno for violating the anti-encampment ordinance and for the illegal possession of a shopping cart. The city does have some mechanisms in place for individuals to circumvent jail times and punishments. Those can include things like rehabilitation programs or directing them to a bed subject to availability. But those are typically reserved for individuals who have some sort of substance or alcohol abuse disorder, or maybe even a mental or physical disability where they would need medical assistance. But in the case of Two Hands, this is a man who is sound of mind, has no criminal record to speak of. So those services wouldn't really help him. What he needs is really like a home, a roof over his head. So with both sides kind of reaching a bit of a stalemate in terms of diversion, we eventually went to court. And the result was supposed to be the first real legal challenge of this ordinance in a court of law. But that's not exactly how things panned out.
And could you tell us what the court ruled on the Wiki Two Hands case?
Yeah, so here in California, people who are charged with a misdemeanor crime have a right to a speedy trial. And that right can be waived, but if you don't waive it, then within 45 days if you are in law enforcement custody, or 30 days if you are not, which was the case for Two Hands, you must be in court, right? Your case must be heard. And March 6th was that deadline for Wiki. And when we met in February, the judge assigned this case all the way until yesterday, Thursday, April 10th, which was past the deadline. And so the judge upholding Two Hands' right to a speedy trial said that we can't even listen to the case and that it has to be dismissed on technical grounds.
Now, the city attorney, Andrew Jantz, released a statement after the case was tossed. What did he have to say?
Yeah, so, the city attorney respected but ultimately disagreed with the decision. I believe part of the statement reads, quote, "This outcome is unfortunate because we identified housing for a defendant as part of a proposed plea deal," end quote. And so, ultimately, Two Hands, as highlighted in our article, has found housing. It's going to come in the form of a housing voucher, which probably won't come for about another 6 months, according to Des Martinez, who is a local unhoused advocate. And so he'll likely be, hopping around some shelters or maybe dorming with some friends until then. But for now, outside the legal system, he was able to finally find a home after being homeless for about 5 years.
And I thought it was interesting. I believe Wiki's lawyer told Fresnoland that while he was happy with the outcome, he was slightly disappointed that he didn't get to make his case for Wiki because he felt that was important. Was that right?
Yeah. So his attorney, Kevin Little, as have many critics of the ordinance, argued that the law has no legal standing, right? The big criticism has been that the law effectively makes homeless people illegal. The act of homelessness being illegal and the existence of these people being illegal. While that is a harsh criticism, they certainly have the opportunity to fight that in court. And Little said that, ultimately there was a man's life hanging in the balance here. He admitted that, the fact that his client was able to escape jail and fines is the biggest one he could possibly get. But for someone who has behind the scenes been mounting a case against the ordinance himself, he definitely expressed a bit of disappointment not to get a platform to really start doing that in a legal stage.
Okay, and so could you just also explain just why this case has been so significant?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's been about a little over 6 months now that the ordinance has been on the table, and many people have taken these diversion offers, right? Whether it's access to mental health services or rehabilitation programs. And the city, through there, and said, as long as you opt into these programs and you complete these deals, we'll go ahead and this will not be on your record, right? We'll waive any and all punishments, and we can try and help you find a home after that. And so, by all means, winning this case for Little, had it actually gone to trial, would have really taken out this ordinance that was months in the making.
So does that mean the city could potentially bring charges against someone else in the future?
Absolutely, yeah. That is still on the table. The ordinance is going on as follows. Whether or not somebody wants to actually take that to court instead of taking any sort of offered services instead would be up to them. But it's still on the table that a case like this could come back anytime.
Now, I want to note, too, you've been covering this issue for a while. I know you've done some boots-on-the-ground reporting at some encampment sites in Fresno as well. You interviewed Wiki Two Hands last year, and the city attorney's office actually subpoenaed you and a Fresno Bee reporter concerning this case. So tell us what that was about.
Yeah, so our understanding was that the city tried to subpoena us in an effort to confirm some statements made in our previous reporting on their behalf for the trial. Obviously, we'll never get the true sense of what may have happened had the case not been dismissed, but we were ready to go with legal counsel from both David Loy from the First Amendment Coalition and Fresno-based attorney Patience Milrod to plea our shield laws and to let them know that this state, as in many other parts of the country, have some pretty cut and dry shield laws that prevent us from delving into unpublished material on or off the record. And we wanted to make sure we could report on this case impartially, not as a witness for either side of the trial, but just as an impartial reporter that could remain unbiased throughout the entire thing.
Which is arguably very important on such a complex issue that, we have someone who's trained to cover the facts and not being pulled in either direction.
Right.
So where do we go from here, Pablo?
Well, there's a lot of questions that still got to be answered. I mean, for now, the laws are still in place. So as I said, we could be right back into another trial that doesn't get dismissed, and we could see an argument happen in a legal setting for the first time. The state has a bill, I believe it's SB 634, which has the potential to supersede enforcement of any kind through local jurisdictions, making this law a moot point. And on the other end, council members have said that they want to see progress reports on ordinance enforcement. And so that's certainly still on the table, and it would be similar to a recent workshop that was presented, part of the eviction protection program. So there might be a time soon where constituents can see just how enforcement's being operated, and maybe they could form more opinions based on that.
Pablo Orihuela, housing reporter for Fresnoland. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And that's today's show. Like listening to Central Valley Daily? Support the show by leaving a 5-star rating in your podcast app. We appreciate your support. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.